Welcome to the Wilson Center's Lebanon Ideas Forum special series featuring Lebanese politicians, civil society leaders, activists, and other key players in Lebanon's political present and its future. I'm Merissa Khurma, the director of the Wilson Center's Middle East program. On May 15, the Lebanese people voted in a new parliament. Voters from across Lebanon, as well as the diaspora, cast their votes in an election that was deemed by many as integral to the change that many Lebanese people want to see. Much needed change to address the avalanche of crises that the country is facing on the political, economic, and financial fronts. One of these members of parliament that was recently elected is Samy Gemayel, the leader of the Kataeb Party. With us today also is Nadim Haddad, founding member of D.A.R.T, the Diaspora Action Round Table that works with Lebanese diaspora communities across the world. Samy Gemayel and Nadim Haddad, thank you so much for joining me today. So Samy, I'm going to start with you. Much of the assessment of the results of the Lebanese elections here in Washington was a bit of a mixed bag of cautious optimism, but also realism, given Hezbollah's loss, but also the incoming independent candidates. I'm curious to hear what your reading of the results are from your vantage point.
So thank you for hosting me, and thank you for everything, all the efforts you're doing to raise the issue of Lebanon in DC and in the US as a whole. And I hope that we will continue to work together to spread the right message across in the interest of Lebanon, in the service of Lebanon. To go back directly to your question, I think we still need sometime, maybe few days, few weeks, to be able to assess the results, because it was a sanctioned voting. So people voted against, they didn't vote for, which means that most of the time they voted for people they didn't know. And these people are unpredictable because most of them don't have a political background. Some of them are opportunistics that decided to run as opposition people, as revolution members or part of the groups that were part of the revolution. But we didn't have any background on them, and people didn't have any background on them. There was no background check on anyone who was candidate in these lists, which means that it will be we have some surprises regarding issues that are important for us. So people voted against. They voted for lists they didn't know the candidates. They didn't have any kind of, most of the time, any kind of program. So they voted blindly, if I may say. Mm-hmm. Some of those who were elected are good people. I'm talking about the newcomers. Mm-hmm. Some of them are good people with good intentions, with good backgrounds, and some of them are totally unknown. So we don't know how they will act. We don't know if they have enough immunity to corruption, immunity to political pressure, to all kinds of tools that are used by mafia and militia regime that we are in presence of. So this is why I'm a bit cautious. Mm-hmm. And this is why we need time to be able to assess how these people will behave. So we can assess what we know. We cannot assess what we don't know. So this is why what's for sure, what we know for sure, is that Hezbollah alone with his allies, direct allies, they don't have the majority, which is a win by itself. Okay. The problem is that that raises a question. Is there a majority facing a minority? No. So it is true that Hezbollah doesn't have a majority, but this doesn't mean that there is a majority facing Hezbollah. So you have a number of members of parliament that, okay, we know some of them. We don't know how they will act. We don't know the independent people, how they will act. The only thing we know is that we have an opportunity. There is an opportunity. If we are able to unite all these people together, we can have a majority. This is not, this is very far from being a reality today. So we are getting to know each other. We are trying to understand how each one of us think. We have 63 new members of parliament in the parliament. Half of the MPs were changed. So we need time to be able to know these people, to assess them, to see how they will behave during the sessions, what will be their positions regarding the political issues, the socio-economic issues, how they will react to intimidation, all that stuff. So this is why it's we need some time to be able to assess clearly what will be the outcome on a political level.
Thank you for that. So given that many new faces have entered the political field, you just said that many of them are unknowns. Do you plan to reach out to better understand their positions, their platforms?
We are talking to them. We are getting to know them. It takes time because you have a lot of new people. So, and you cannot judge them based on one meeting. So we met most of them. We'll continue to meet them. We'll continue to understand how they think. But for the time being, I cannot give an assessment.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to you, Nadim, to also get a sense from you as a leading member of the diaspora and the Diaspora Action Round Table, about the way you view the results so far, particularly in light of what Mr. Gemayel just mentioned.
Look, Merissa, thank you first of all for this great initiative. And I'll start from the end. This initiative will be crucial to bring the MPs like Samy and like the new independent MPs that are unknown and don't know the system, to bring them into a different field, an outside field of communication, of presence, where they can actually meet each other, exchange ideas, and also receive the support from the diaspora that is needed in order to become immune, such as Samy said. Like, we don't know if they'll be immune to bribery, immune to this, immune to that. So this is where they're gonna get their immunity from. They're gonna get their immunity from the larger body of Lebanese people all around the world, and what we can pull in as far as know-how is concerned by bringing, people like you guys, like the Wilson Center, into this game. I do share the cautiousness that Samy spoke of, but I would like to remind a very important point, is that these people that are unknown, if they fail or they show that they don't have what it takes, or they don't, their aspirations or their actions don't speak to the aspirations of the people that brought them, those people know very well that they're not coming back in 4 years, because these are truly elected people by the people. So there is no leader here that pointed with his finger and said, vote for that guy. So they're just, they just won't be elected. And I keep reminding that, and that's something that we should always keep reminding of, that if they don't perform and if we don't like their performance, there will be no seconds for them.
That sounds like a pressure point, but also an incentive to actually work on the issues instead of politicking the whole time.
Absolutely.
Samy, I want to turn to you because I think it's important, beyond just the political game that is played by many, to understand what the priorities are from your point of view as a member of parliament, but also a political party leader. So for you personally, what are the key issues that you want to address? What are your priorities?
Let me point something out first. We are in a dramatic financial situation. And I don't think that a lot of people understand how dangerous the situation is and how it's a matter of life and death for the country. I don't know if most of people understand what we are facing. We are in a bankrupt state. We live in a bankrupt state. There are no reserves anymore in the central bank. Everything was spent. Maybe we still have 5 billion left, which is not, this is a number that is unsustainable. I think that the pound will continue to drop because Mr. Riyad Salemi, the governor of the central bank, won't be able to sustain the Lebanese pound on this level very much longer. I think that he will have to let go. And the minute he will let go the monetary policy, I think that we will be facing an existential threat for the future of Lebanon. And this issue is pending on few days, few weeks. So in 1 month from now, I think that we won't be in a position to talk about issues that are interesting for you, for me, for everyone. I think we will be talking about the survival of Lebanon. And this is my fear. And I think this is the priority number one. And we have to think how to deal with this, because if the Lebanese pound drops to 100,000 per dollar, we will be talking about a salary of an average soldier in the Lebanese army of $30 per month.
Yeah.
And this is not sustainable. This means that the whole administration will collapse. This means that the security apparatus of the state will collapse. Mm-hmm. And this means that we are heading to chaos. We are heading to chaos because no one will be able to provide any kind of security in Lebanon to anyone, including the constitutional institutions in Lebanon, including the parliament, including the government, including anyone. So we will be heading to a total chaos. And I think that no one realizes this. I think that everyone is very busy trying to understand the results and trying to figure out what to do next, etc. On a normal, like we were in a normal situation, like we were in a normal state, etc. No one understands that we are not there anymore. I think there is an existential threat on Lebanon, and it could explode anytime now, anytime.
But you said people are not aware of this. But the hope is the members of parliament that decided to enter the field are aware of the gravity of the situation. So how
Listen, we are aware. We are aware, and we've been saying this in publicly. And I fear that most of the newcomers and most of the MPs are not aware, or they know that there is a problem, but they don't understand the magnitude of the problem.
So,
it's a matter of understanding the magnitude of the problem.
absolutely, the urgency, the criticality of it. But given that you are a more seasoned politician than many of these new entrants, and you are more aware of the severity of the situation, what role can you play to help better educate them about how serious this is and why this should be the #1 priority for Lebanon?
Some of them, especially those who come from a background that is the revolution, and that they are against the system, and they don't want to talk to anyone, and they don't want to listen to anyone, they don't want to be allies with anyone, they want to work alone in a puristic approach that will lead nowhere, which makes communication with them difficult, because they think that by talking to even us, who are known to be in the opposition, and we were not part of the whole establishment that got the country where we are today, even with us, they have reservations in talking to us.
But that's normal. That's politics.
And coordinate with us. Sorry?
I said that's part of the political game. It's having reservations about where.
I have no problem with this. I'm just talking that in front of the urgency that we're facing, that I am talking about. I think that there is no room for such behavior. Unfortunately, I would have loved to be in a country where we have the luxury to have this kind of attitude. Unfortunately, we're not there. This is what I can tell you.
You cannot afford to waste any time.
No, we cannot afford to waste any time. We cannot afford not to be working together. We cannot afford not to think in brainstorming sessions on how to deal with this issues that dangerous. And unfortunately, they are still living in their own world. Most of them, not all of them, fortunately. We still have people like Mark Dow, like Waddah Sadeh. All these people are very aware and open-minded about talking to those who think like us. But this is not enough. We need more people on board. We need to encourage these people to open up so we can work together. You are asking me, what are you doing to make things happen? I would love to, if I was able to break these boundaries and try to find a proper way of communication, and to be able to start promoting solutions, start thinking how to bypass these issues. What are the solutions? We need to bring technical people on board. We need to bring experts, international experts. There's a lot of things we can do. But in order to get there, we need to be able to sit together and think out loud.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nadim, so given what Mr. Gemayel just described, in terms of raising the urgency of bringing people together to address particularly the monetary and fiscal challenge, what is your role within the diaspora to help elevate that urgency?
So Merissa, this is news for everybody, right? So the diaspora is here on the ground in Lebanon in a big way now. We are, I came here a month ago. I'm still here. I keep delaying. because remember, when we spoke of this program, it was, hey, let's make it like a think tank, like Samy's saying, and see what we need for Lebanon, like what needs to be the things focused on for Lebanon. Let's put our ideas together. And then when I came to you and I said, hey, why don't we have one MP, one from the traditional opposition, which is, I hope we stop using this term, like Samy and Namat and whatnot. And then let's have another MP from the new 13 independents on the same session. Because if they're not sitting together because they have reservations, like Samy just said, if they're not sitting together in their living rooms or privately or whatnot, so let them come and sit together in these kind of programs under the auspices of the Lebanese diaspora and under the guidance of the Middle East program at Wilson Center. This is a venue, and this was my idea. I think spoke to Samy a couple of weeks ago, and here I want to say, like Samy, for example, and Namat Frame, are so like, yes, they're like, yes, whatever we come to them with like, hey, how can we make this a unified opposition? They are so yes and go for it, And here I understand that because they're already established. They already know who they are. They know the game. The other ones are still tiptoeing in and out. They're afraid. They're like, okay, if we make one wrong move, we get this label, we get that label. But I agree with Samy 100%. We don't have the luxury to tiptoe in. You are in parliament. It is time to take a full dive and try to resuscitate this country. So, we're going to make social events. I'm going to, hopefully when you guys come in July, we can do a big social gathering and invite all of them. And, maybe the most bashful ones will show up as well.
Absolutely. That is a good plan forward, and I'm glad that this platform here at the Wilson Center is giving opportunities to members of parliament to come together and discuss the issues at hand. So I'm going to turn a little bit to the geopolitics and America's role in the region, but particularly vis-a-vis Lebanon, of course. So basically, America's Middle East policy with the Biden administration is not fully clear, but the one thing that is clear, because that was the priority that a priority issue that they delved into from day one, was reigniting the JCPOA talks with Iran. So how do you think this is affecting Lebanon? And then what other regional players are also key to supporting Lebanon's not only democratic process, but also in supporting Lebanon in getting out of, this predicament? Samy?
I think that everything was on hold for some time now because of the Ukrainian-Russia crisis or war. I think that this changed a lot of issues because everything is related, especially the interests of Iran and Russia are interrelated. This is why things were put on hold, I think, and we don't know yet when things will get back on track. So for the moment, we are in a wait and see position. And I don't think that for now, we can do any kind of speculation regarding the international and regional positioning of any power in the region, or whether it's Saudi Arabia or Iran or these people, or the United States and Russia. Today, everyone is busy elsewhere. So I don't think that today there is any strategy before things calm down in Russia, in Ukraine.
So, and since you've mentioned Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing conflict, I want to zoom into one aspect of it that is particularly affecting Lebanon's food insecurity, because Lebanon is one of the countries that is heavily dependent on wheat imports from Ukraine. So how do you see this playing out further? And I mean, it is worsening the situation, I would assume, but how can members of parliament also play a role in addressing this issue?
I think this is a global issue. It's not only in Lebanon. The problem in Lebanon is the currency that is becoming unsustainable. So in the whole, in all the countries, you have this issue of wheat everywhere. Even in Europe, they are trying to find alternatives to Ukraine. But the issue in Lebanon is that the price of the bread is becoming unsustainable, not because of Ukraine. It's becoming unsustainable because of the Lebanese pound issue.
Right.
So people are starving and are starting to starve. And I would say that this will escalate. And I'm not talking only about bread. I'm talking about everything. It's a total collapse that will touch everything. So absolutely. Yes, it has its impact. The issue of Ukraine and the wheat in Ukraine has an impact, as it is the same impact as everywhere in the world. But the bigger impact here is the Lebanese currency issue.
Yeah, the devaluation of the currency. Yeah, it is quite alarming, the degree of the devaluation. I'm going to ask a final question to both of you. I'll start with you, Samy. So, because we, started to touch on America's role in the region. So, if you had 30 minutes with Secretary Blinken to discuss America's role in Lebanon, what would you highlight? What would your asks be for U.S. engagement?
In order to give the right suggestions, we have to do the right diagnostic. We have to understand that Lebanon is hostage. Lebanon is hostage of a militia that is taking Lebanon and the Lebanese people hostages of the weapons and the violence that Hezbollah is using to impose anything they want. The Lebanese economy today is split in two. You have the official economy and the black market economy. And I would say they are 50-50. The parallel economy in Lebanon is 50% of the global economy. And the other 50% is official economy that is going through the channels, paying taxes, paying all their dues, customs, all that stuff. And this parallel economy is there because of Hezbollah. The borders are open because of Hezbollah. The Arab markets are closed to Lebanese exports because of Hezbollah. Foreign and Arab investments in Lebanon are blocked because of Hezbollah. Our banks are under scrutiny because of Hezbollah and other things too. But Hezbollah, it started with Hezbollah. It started when the Lebanese banks were under threat from the Treasury, from the American Treasury, threatening them not to open any account to anyone who is close to Hezbollah. So you are in a country that is hostage of a situation in which a Lebanese party called Hezbollah is taking orders, money, weapons from a foreign country and using Lebanon as a territory or I would say it's headquarters for them in the regions, in the Middle East, to bargain on an international level. So we cannot solve this issue without international intervention. We cannot on our own get out of this hostage situation. You cannot ask someone who is tied to a chair to free himself. Someone should come in and save him or free him. Because if you are on a chair and you have ropes, you are tightened on the chairs, and you have someone with a weapon guarding you as a hostage, you cannot do anything by yourself. You can try to scream, you can try to resist, you can do anything you want. At the end of the day, you have someone who is much stronger than you that is taking the decisions. So based on the fact that based on the facts of money is coming from Iran, weapons are coming from Iran, and Hezbollah is clearly stating that he is taking orders from Iran, it makes the issue an international issue and not only a local issue. Now, okay, we can find a lot of economic solution to try to improve the situation. We can try to stop at least the corruption issues. We can try to improve our governance issue. Okay, but this won't solve the core problem that we have. It can improve, but it cannot solve. This is why an international a foreign involvement like Iran's involvement in Lebanon needs an international intervention. We cannot stop this on our own.
And what do you mean by international intervention?
We mean a clear position from all those who love Lebanon to pressure Iran to stop funding and sending weapons to Lebanon.
So you're talking about a political intervention?
Yes, we're talking about political intervention. We're talking about increasing the sanctions. We're talking about putting pressure on the Iranian regime to stop using their proxies in the region and mainly in Lebanon. Because this policy of Iran is destabilizing the whole region. Now, it's not my job to defend the other countries. They have to do it by themselves. I'm talking about Lebanon. Hezbollah today is funded by $1 billion a year budget to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is stating publicly, and this is on media, and I can send it I can send a YouTube video to you that shows Hassan Nasrallah 3 or 4 years ago stating clearly that their money is coming from Iran, their weapons are coming from Iran, their clothes are coming from. He said it. I'm not the one who is saying it. He said it. It's not like he's hiding it. He is saying our money is from Iran, our weapons are from Iran, our clothes are from Iran, everything we own is coming from Iran, and our leader is the head of the Iranian regime. So this guy is clearly stating that he doesn't care about Lebanon. His agenda is elsewhere. This is why I think that this issue is an international issue, and this should be raised, and this should be tackled. And you can ask us as MPs to do whatever we can, and we will. We will not wait for the states or anyone to do something about Iran, to try to do something about the rest. We will try. We will do whatever we talked about in the first part of the meeting. We will do that. I'm not saying that we will not do anything unless this issue of Iran is solved. I'm not saying that at all. But we have to be aware that there is a huge part of the problem that is above us and that can only be solved by an international intervention and a political intervention. We don't like wars. We are very peaceful people. We don't want to go there. But I have to be, if I have to be genuine with you and with myself, I cannot ignore this huge elephant in the room that is dealing the cards.
I think you will need more than 30 minutes with Secretary Blinken, Samy. I'm gonna turn to you, Nadim, and ask you the same question. If you had an opportunity to sit with Secretary Blinken, with other diaspora members, what would your asks be about America's role and support to Lebanon?
When you said that, when Samy finished talking, I giggled because my answer was going to be, I would spend the 30 minutes setting up a structure and a system with Secretary Blinken that actually will afford us regular sit-downs with him, because that's what's needed for Lebanon. 30 minutes won't cut it. We need an actual program in DC with our MPs going there regularly to represent the Lebanese. That's what we need. I would assure me as Lebanese diaspora, I'm not a politician. I will just assure that there is a system where people like Samy Gemayel will have the ear of Lebanon, where our 26 MPs of the opposition and of the independents will actually have the ear and will have a unified narrative. I mean, this is what I want. What I want is, me as a Lebanese diaspora, I want a unified narrative in Washington, and I want that unified narrative to be the only one that Blinken and others in the government are hearing. And I want to make sure that the people who got us here don't get a meeting in Washington anymore.
Thank you very much,
Only
Nadim.
that.
Mr. Samy Gemayel and Nadim Haddad, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your thoughts. All I can say is we will continue our series to feature various politicians and activists and civil society leaders, as well as economists and entrepreneurs from across Lebanon, so that we get all the perspectives and we help brainstorm ideas for a better Lebanon. So thank you once again, and we hope to see you in Beirut.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.